Hi there, welcome to today's Deck Tech. I'm having so much fun doing the random commanders as the new year starts that I'm going to carry on doing the random commanders until we get something new to talk about. There's a remaster set coming out in a couple of weeks, so I'll keep my eyes on that in case there's anything there that we haven't seen yet and I haven't covered yet. But in the meantime, Grakmaw, Skyclave Ravager, one black and a green for a legendary creature Hydra Horror. Enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it, and whenever another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, put a +1/+1 counter on Grakmaw, and then when Grakmaw dies, create X black and green Hydra creature token where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Grakmaw. So basically, even if you don't get any extra counters on Grakmaw, every time it dies, you're going to be left with a 3/3 Hydra, which isn't too sad, I suppose. It's a token you get. You can make the token bigger. You can make other tokens. It has its upside. It's a bit of a strange one. Not really sure how I missed this out. This was Zendikar, one of the Zendikar sets. I can't remember which one the symbol is for now, but I know it's in Zendikar. And I was like, okay, well, I haven't covered this one yet. It's been thrown up on the random generator, so here we go. This is what today's deck looks like. But before I go any further, please, if you haven't before, hit the subscribe button that's down in the corner. I'm at 312 at the moment. I would really like to, by the end of 2024, which we're now in, even though we're only a few days into it, but we are in 2024, get to 500 by the end of the year. If I can get it even quicker, better. But, you know, aim for this year, one of the big aims, you'll find out, is going to be 500 followers here on YouTube. I've got another video coming out shortly this week explaining what my aims are for the year. And there's going to be a few changes, hopefully, coming to the videos. So keep your eyes open for that. But for now, Grakmaw. As usual, start with the mana base. Black and green lands all the way through. I have got Field of the Dead in here. We have got quite a few lands in here that will hopefully eventually trigger Field of the Dead so we get some extra blockers. Fable Passages here. Drannith Runes is quite nice in this deck because all of the creatures I think are non-human, so we'll be able to hopefully put some +1/+1 counters on everything that only comes into play eventually once we get the mana up and running, so this works really nicely. Castle Garenbrig just helps us get some extra mana to cast our creatures, and most of the things in the deck are green. I'm not going to lie about it. There's not that many black creatures that I could find or think of that interact with +1/+1 counters, so it's kind of heavy on the green, which, considering I've got still quite a few basic swamps in here, you may wonder why. I'm still afraid of Blood Moon. I've been seeing it turn up again and again and again recently when I've been playing online, and therefore I'm still keeping the amount of basics in the deck at a reasonable level to counteract that, just in case you're wondering. Rest of the deck, things you'd expect to see: Yavimaya here, Urborg's here, Undergrowth Stadium, Temple of the False God, Reliquary Tower. My usual selection of lands are here. Nothing fancy. Similarly, there's nothing really that fancy about the mana artifact ramp side of things. Tantalite Talisman, Mana Crypt, so you know, if you're building this in real life, you haven't got a Mana Crypt, drop it, put something cheaper in, it's fine. Likewise, same with Mana Vault, that's here as well. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Charcoal Diamond, the Medallions of an Emerald and Jet, the Moss Diamond, and Talisman of Resistance. At the end of the day, a lot of the stuff, as you can see, we're kind of light down this end. We're going to get very heavy over at this end, at the top end of the curve shortly. But we do want to make sure we can hit these things out. And we do want to make sure that we get them out with some reasonable amount of +1/+1 counters on them when Grakmaw is in play. So, the rest of it, starting with the 1-drops. Birds of Paradise gives us a little bit of colour ramp, gives us black and gives us green. Collective Voyage is another one of these cards that seems to have fallen out of favour at the moment on MTGO, but I still like it. Yes, it ramps everybody, but hey, it ramps everybody, and you want to be ramping as hard as possible. People take advantage of it, all well and good. Elves of Deep Shadow is the only elf that I'm aware of that produces a colour other than green. This one produces black and it does ping us for one, but it does help with our Grakmaw casting on turn 2 with a bit of luck. Elvish Mystic, Fine Order Elves. Landwar Elves give us all the ramp we need. And Hardened Scales. It's a +1/+1 counters deck at the end of the day. You've got to have Hardened Scales in here. 2-drops. Nature's Law, 3 visits, just to go and get our Overgrown Tombs or some of the other dual lands we have in here. We do have a couple in here. I haven't got the original dual land in here, by the way. But we have got things like woodland chasms here. So, one of these can go and get our wonderful overgrown tomb. The other one can go and get the chasm. And then we've got both the dual lands out that have the names on them. So, it's all good. Winding Constrictor is one of the few, well, it's black-green creature that does interact with +1/+1 counters. So, that makes an appearance here. And obviously, I think you saw it earlier, Swiftfoot boots just to protect Grakmaw when we get Grakmaw in play. +1/+1 counter deck, branching evolutions here. Whenever I'm playing a +1/+1 counter deck now that has greener, this card is going to be appearing. I love it, it's great. So glad it got a reprint. Fight Ringing also appears as a hideaway enchantment, just so we can chuck some +1/+1 counters around. And realistically, if you cast this later in the game, you'll probably be able to flip it on the same turn. Growing Rights to help us get there and get our mana on the go, so we've got even more mana going. The first of the Hydras I'm playing appears now, the outside of the Commander, Mana Gorger. This gets big very quickly with the +1/+1 counters. Retreat to Kadzu gives a bit of life gain, but mainly landfall +1/+1 counter. Search for Tomorrow goes and gets us a basic we may need. And Tribute to the World Tree. We've got a few creatures that come in with power that is less than 3. So we can get some extra +1/+1 counts on it. Works really well with the Hydras we've got coming up, because you can cast them for X = 2. With this in play, they come in as 4/4s, and they're really quite nice. So it means you get more of them in play if you want to. Bear in mind, no Elixir of Immortality in this deck, so be careful how you are playing your creatures out, but bear in play. Filth is here for a bit of Swamp Walk. We are turning everyone's things into... Where are we? There you go. Everyone's land becomes a swamp, so this makes all our creatures unblockable if we can get in the graveyard. Likewise, Brawn gives everything that hasn't got trample once we get in the graveyard. Probably be fairly easy to get in the graveyard. Anyway, Nylea, another way of giving all our creatures trample and a little bit of pumpage if we need to. Parallel Lives, double up on the tokens we're going to be producing. Yep, okay. Not the greatest thing. The only real thing we've got is this, but we might as well have the slot here to get double 3/3s if we need to. Rampant Rejuvenator goes and fetches basic lands when it dies. Templar Discovery is the more common ramp card you're starting to see more and more of in MTGO land at the moment. I've played against this 5 or 6 times in the last couple of weeks, and it's good. Yes, they get extra lands, but hey, you're still getting hipped. Assuming people go and find the lands, and people who are behind will go and find them. You do end up with 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes lands to come in play, so it's pretty good. And they are lands, not basic, so it is a land you can go and get. Field of the Dead, Ruins, Bridge, it's all good. Going from there, Venture Forth, I just like this card. This gets suspended on turn 2 when I need it to, and I just like having the random land I get. Garrick, Wild Speaker, can untap our lands to help us cast things, can produce beast tokens, which we can double up with Parallel Lives if we need some blockers, all good, or basically what we're hoping for is a -4/-4. -4 to give everything, +3/+3 and trample, and just go in for the Alpha Strike. Corpsejack Menace is another one of the black creatures that interacts with +1/+1 counters, and this specifically counters, unlike Winding Constrictor, which is any type of counter. This one is doubling up on the +1/+1s when they come in, so we're not going to complain too much about this. Doubling Season also does that as well, and also gives us double up on the tokens we get when Grakmaw dies. Defiler Ravager chucks around +1/+1 counters when we cast our green's permanent spells. Hero's Bane comes in with 4 +1/+1 counters on it, and then we get to start doubling its power up doubling the counters on it for 4 mana every turn, which can give people a nightmare. Likewise, Iron-Scale Hydra. If a creature would deal combat damage to the Iron-Scale Hydra, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter on it. This is basically, avoiding the creatures with Death Touch, because that will kill it. Just general creatures will just have a bit of a nightmare getting past this one, so it's all good fun. Briar Hydra deals combat damage to player, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. So you're going to get a forest and a swamp, so you can get 2 +1/+1 counters every time this gets him some damage. Whip Tongue Hydra has got reach, enters the battlefield, you can destroy all creatures with flying, which will upset the fairies players if they can't counter it. And then you get to put some +1/+1 counters on the Whip Tongue Hydra for each creature destroyed this way. Angels and fairies will not like this card at all. Hydra Omnivore deals combat damage for player, deals that much damage to each opponent. That's lovely, especially when you give it trample. Oran Reef Hydra, obviously +1/+1 counters on it when you do the landfall tricks. 2 if it's a forest, 1 if it's a swamp or anything else. Regal Behemoth makes you become the Monarch. I do like having the ability to become the Monarch a lot. I know this isn't a Hydra, but hey, you do that. And as long as we're in the Monarch, we get to add an additional 1 mana of any colour when we tap a land, so that really does help. Soul of the Harvest, another non-crow token creature in the battlefield. We get to draw a card. I needed some card draw, need something big. This had trample, worked for both of me. Overworld Hydra goes and gets us a land card into the battlefield tapped. And its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands. We all know it. Voron Clicks, Monstrous Raider. Yeah, I haven't played Praetor, this particular Praetor, for a while. This is nice. Double up on the counters again. Gargos, a Vicious Watcher, makes all of our Hydras cost 4 less, which is really nice. If you could drop this down, you've still got a few mana left over, you know. 2 for this. 2 for this, 2 for this, 2 for all the Hydras we've already been through, basically. Once we get it in play, even less for some of the other ones. You've got to love the fact that if they cast a spell, whenever a creature you control becomes target of its spell, it fights a creature you don't control. Now, there is an argument to do this as a deck on its own. I'm umming and ahhing about it at the moment, but we'll see what happens, so bear that in mind. Anyway, Vigor's here. More +1/+1 counts being kicked around. Nyxborn Ancient, just to make sure all our mana gets to a ridiculous level as soon as possible so we can cast things out. Great Henge automatically puts a +1/+1 counter on our creatures when they come into play. You know, really does make Grakmaw even better because it comes in as a 4/4. And you will be making sure you get the +1/+1 counters when things die. Going from there, the last few cards are all the X-cost Hydras that I think we should be playing. Hungering Hydra is also here. When it's dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. It must survive the damage to get the counters. Okay. Protean Hydra comes in with all the X on it. If damage will be dealt to it, remove that many +1/+1 counters. Whenever a +1/+1 counter is removed from the Hydra, put 2 +1/+1 counters on the beginning of the next end step. Okay then. Wildwood Scourge, just here to more bigger things. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a non-Hydra creature you control, you put a +1/+1 counter on the Wildwood Scourge. Hence why we have quite a few things that aren't just Hydras in the deck. Hooded Hydra, you're going to morph it. It's probably the best way of doing it unless you've got a whole load of mana, in which case having all the snakes is quite nice when it dies. Primordial Hydra, beginning of upkeep with double the +1/+1 counters on it, and then it has trample as long as it has 10 or more. Really easy to do with this deck. You'll probably get it on your next upkeep, especially if you get sort of like play this for 7 mana, so X is 5, comes in as a 5/5, your next upkeep it goes to a 10/10, there you go, there's your trample, done. Steelbane Hydra comes into play, just a little bit of way of destroying artifacts and enchantments for upsetting us by using the +1/+1 counters on it. Vastwood Hydra just dies, distribute a number of +1/+1 counters across all the other creatures. That's fine. And Voracious Hydra, either a removal spell or a big creature with trample, depending how you want to spend the mana. And that's it. That's my take on Grakmaw, the Savage Ravager. Skyclave Ravager, sorry. It's interesting. I'm going to show you what's coming up soon, though. I'm going to let you surprised. There is another Hydra deck coming up soon. Whether it's coming up this week or next week, I haven't decided yet. But there is another Hydra deck because after I clicked on this card on the randomizer, I then got this Hydra as the next card. So I'm thinking about Gyrus at the moment. So Gyrus will be coming up probably next week. So keep your eyes open for that. But for now, hope you enjoyed learning about Grakmaw, Skyclave Ravager. I will be playing this on stream this week, so keep your eyes open for that. Come and say hello. There's a link to the Twitch stream down below. Like I said earlier, hope you've hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.